In this video, we see about clinical anatomy of orbit. So during the development, cranial neural crest cells forms the frontonasal process and maxillary processes. From these two processes, orbital walls are developed and capsule of forebrain forms the roof of the orbit. Each orbit are quadrangular truncated pyramidal in shape with its apex located at the optic canal and base at the orbital rim. Boundaries are superiorly anterior cranial fossa, inferiorly maxillary sinus, medially nasal cavity and ethmoid sinus, laterally middle cranial fossa and temporal fossa. So each orbit is quadrangular truncated pyramidal in shape with its apex located at optic canal and base at orbital rim. Superiorly anterior cranial fossa, inferiorly maxillary sinus, medially nasal cavity and ethmoidal sinus, laterally middle cranial fossa and temporal fossa are the boundaries for the orbit. Dimensions: each orbit has 30 ml volume. Its rim horizontally is 40 mm and vertically it is 35 mm. Intraorbital width is 25 mm. Depth on the lateral side is more 50 mm than the medial, it is 42 mm. What are the bones that forms the orbit? So first we see about big bones. One is frontal bone, next is zygomatic bone, next is maxillary bone, and on the medial side we have lacrimal bone, ethmoid bone and sphenoid bone. The smaller one is palatine bone. What are the walls of the orbit? So there are 4 walls: medial wall, lateral wall, roof and floor. So here are the walls of the orbit. This is roof, this is floor, this is lateral wall, this is medial wall. Major bones are: this is frontal bone, this is zygomatic bone, this is maxillary bone, this is sphenoid bone. Here is the lacrimal fossa, lacrimal bone and ethmoid bone. First we come to see the medial wall. Medial wall is formed from anteroposteriorly by the frontal process of maxilla. Second is lacrimal bone and ethmoid and sphenoid. Medial wall is thinnest 0.2 to 0.4 mm in thick and spaced 25 mm apart and parallel to each other and measures 44 to 50 mm. So boundaries of medial wall are frontal process of maxilla, lacrimal bone, ethmoid bone and posteriorly sphenoid bone. So features on the medial wall. Lacrimal fossa is formed by frontal process of maxilla and lacrimal bone containing the lacrimal sac. So in the lacrimal fossa, we have the lacrimal sac. It is bounded by anterior and posterior lacrimal crest. Medial to lacrimal fossa, upper part has anterior ethmoidal sinus and lower part has middle meatus of the nose. So on the medial wall, in the lacrimal sac, we have the, in the lacrimal bone, we have the lacrimal sac, which is bounded by anterior lacrimal and posterior lacrimal crest. So medial wall applied anatomy is, it is thinnest and ethmoiditis is the commonest cause of orbital cellulitis in the children. It is frequently eroded by chronic inflammatory lesions and neoplasms and cysts. So medial wall is thinnest. Any ethmoiditis can cause orbital cellulitis in the children. And medial wall, because of its thinnest nature, it is easily fractured during the trauma and orbitotomy operation. And in the ethmoid region, we have ethmoid vessels. So hemorrhage can occur if there is a trauma to the medial wall. And traumatic hypertelorism is accidental lateral displacement of medial wall is called traumatic hypertelorism. So here we have ethmoiditis, which is causing orbital cellulitis due to its penetration through the medial wall. In the CT scan, we have this inflammation. On examination, patient will have proptosis, eye congestion, and other features of orbital cellulitis. Next is lateral wall. Lateral wall is thickest and strongest of the orbital walls. Basically, it is formed by bulk bone, that is zygomatic bone, and posteriorly by the greater wing of the sphenoid. So, lateral wall separates orbit from middle cranial fossa and temporal fossa. So, basically, lateral wall is formed by zygomatic bone and sphenoid bone on the posterior side. So, sphenoid bone separates roof and floor by superior and inferior orbital fissure. In the anterior part, there is tubercle of Whitnall. This will give attachment to lateral rectus and lateral rectus check ligament and lateral canthal tendon, Whitnall ligament. So lateral wall protects only posterior part of the globe. Hence, palpation of retrobulbar tumor is easier here. And lateral wall is devoid of blood vessels, hence bleeding also less. One important landmark, zygomaticosphenoid suture on the lateral wall is important landmark in lateral orbitotomy. Next is floor. So floor of the orbit is mainly formed by maxillary bone medially and zygomatic bone laterally and palatine bone posteriorly. So when we see the floor of the orbit, this is maxillary bone and this is zygomatic bone. Here small bone is palatine bone which forms the posterior boundary. So floor is triangular in shape and it is shortest orbital wall. It overlies the maxillary sinus. In the floor, we have infraorbital groove 1 which transmits infraorbital nerves and vessels. So this is in the floor, we have infraorbital groove. Transmission of infraorbital nerves and vessels are through this groove. So applied anatomy, any blunt trauma, that is blowout fractures of the orbit, will break the floor of the orbit. Fist injury or cricket ball injury are most common type of injuries in the blowout fracture. So here orbital fat is prolapsed into the maxillary sinus on the CT film. So next is roof of the orbit. Roof basically underlies the frontal sinus and anterior cranial fossa. Roof of the orbit is formed by frontal bone and lesser wing of the sphenoid. It is also triangular, faces downwards and slightly forwards. Roof has supraorbital notch, 15 mm lateral to the superomedial angle. Supraorbital notch. It transmits supraorbital nerves and vessels. Like infraorbital groove will transmit infraorbital nerves and vessels. Similarly, supraorbital notch will transmit supraorbital nerves and vessels. Surface anatomy is at the junction of lateral 2/3 and medial 1/3 lies the supraorbital notch. Applied anatomy. Any objects that are piercing the upper eyelid can penetrate the roof and damage the frontal bone. So here no major blood vessels are located in the roof, so it can be easily nipped in transfrontal orbitotomy. At the junction of roof and medial wall, the suture line lies proximity to the cribriform plate and ethmoid. If there is any traumatic rupture of dura mater, will cause CSF to escape into the orbit or nose. So here is the fracture roof that is involving the upper eyelid trauma. Will cause orbital roof fracture. So if there is orbital roof fracture, we should closely follow for any CSF leakage. Next is orbital margins. There are 4 margins. Likewise, the walls, there are also 4 margins: superior margin, medial margin, inferior margin, lateral margin. Applied anatomy, one is supraorbital notch for site of nerve block and frontozygomatic suture at the lateral margin prone for suppression during blunt trauma. And in the inferior margin, junction of lateral 2/3 and medial 1/3 lies the origin of inferior oblique muscle, which is prone to involved in fracture of the orbital margin. And if there is involvement of edema of inferior oblique muscle, patient will have diplopia. Next is orbital apex. So orbital apex contains optic canal and superior orbital fissure. We see first optic canal. Optic canal is 8 to 10 mm in length, located within the lesser wing of the sphenoid. So this is sphenoid bone, lesser wing. This is greater wing. It is located, optic canal is located in the lesser wing, 8 to 10 mm. It transmits optic nerve and ophthalmic artery and sympathetic nerves. Orbital end of optic canal is optic foramen. It is less than 6.5 mm in diameter. So basically, optic canal connects orbit to middle cranial fossa. At present, there is no optic canal, only optic foramen is there. So optic canal connects orbit to middle cranial fossa. Clinical significance of optic canal is, if there is optic nerve meningioma or glioma, there will be unilateral enlargement of the optic canal. So this is the tumor. It is causing enlargement of the optic canal here in the CT scan. Next is superior orbital fissure. It is comma-shaped aperture in the orbital cavity bounded by, one is lesser wing, another is greater wing, situated lateral to the optic canal. It is divided into upper, middle and lower by the common tendinous ring. So upper, middle and lower parts by the common tendinous ring. In the upper part, we have lacrimal nerve, frontal and trochlear nerve and superior ophthalmic vein. In the middle part, we have third nerve, superior division, inferior division, nasociliary and abducens nerve. This is optic canal transmitting optic nerve. In the lower part, we have inferior ophthalmic vein. Inferior orbital fissure is 20 mm bony defect bounded by sphenoid, zygomatic, maxillary and palatine bone. So this is inferior orbital fissure bounded by sphenoid, zygomatic, maxillary and palatine bones. So inferior orbital fissure communicates orbit with inferior temporal and pterygopalatine fossa. Contents of inferior orbital fissure are zygomatic nerve, infraorbital groove and infraorbital nerve. Applied anatomy of apex. Tolosa-Hunt syndrome. It is non-specific granulomatous inflammation of the cavernous sinus and superior orbital fissure and orbital apex. Superior orbital fissure syndrome is fracture at the superior orbital fissure and involvement of cranial nerves causing diplopia, ophthalmoplegia and ptosis. Because the muscles are located in the orbital apex, there is ophthalmoplegia and diplopia. So this is a case of superior orbital fissure syndrome. There is proptosis, congestion, chemosis and ophthalmoplegia, extraocular movement muscle limitation. This is the fracture involving the superior orbital fissure. Next is contents of the orbit. So eyeball along with 4 recti and 2 oblique and levator palpebrae superialis and Muller's muscle. Nerves are fifth nerve, sensory branches, and third, sixth, fourth nerve, and autonomic nerve to lacrimal gland and ciliary ganglion. Arteries are branches of ophthalmic artery and branches of internal maxillary artery. Veins are superior and inferior ophthalmic vein. No lymphatics are there. Lacrimal gland, lacrimal sac, and orbital fat are the contents. So, ophthalmic vein and ophthalmic artery, lacrimal gland, extraocular muscles, and orbital fat. Periorbita is layer of tissue consists of periosteum that is loosely adherent to the bone. So basically periosteal tissue which is loosely adherent to bones is called periorbita. It is fixed firmly at orbital margins, suture lines and various fissures and foramina. This is orbital periosteum. It is fixed at the various fissure lines and along the orbital margins it is fixed very firmly. Here also this is the periorbita. Next is orbital septal system. These are connective tissue septa suspended from periorbita to form radial and circumferential interconnecting rings. So they are suspended from periorbita. Connective tissue septa, these are the septa. They are suspended from periorbita to form radial and circumferential rings. So these septa surrounds extraocular muscles, optic nerve and neurovascular elements and fat lobules. Next is orbital septum. It is the fascia behind the orbicularis muscle that lies between the orbital rim and tarsus. So this is the orbital septum between the orbital rim and tarsus. So this is orbital septum behind the orbicularis muscle between the orbital rim and tarsus. Tenon's capsular fascia bulbi is dense elastic connective tissue that surrounds the globe except over the cornea. It begins anteriorly at the perilimbal sclera, extends around the globe to the optic nerve and fuses with the dural sheath of the dural sheath and sclera. So this is Tenon's face. Tenon's fascia. It is covering sclera and below the Tenon's fascia is the Tenon's face. This is Tenon's face and this Tenon's fascia will fuse with the optic nerve and dura. Surgical spaces of the orbit. So this is orbital septum and the anterior border, and this is Tenon's space. This is orbital bone with periosteum. These are extraocular muscles. So subperiosteal space is below the periosteum is subperiosteal space. Below the periosteum. Next is peripheral orbital space. Between the periosteum and extraocular muscle is the peripheral orbital space. This is peripheral orbital space. Next is intraconal central space is between the extraocular muscles and medial boundary is by optic nerve. This is central space. Subperiosteal is as described previously between periorbita and orbital bones, limited anteriorly by the strong adhesion of the periorbita and orbital bones. Subtenons between the eyeball, between tenons and sclera. Importance is we give subtenons anterior and posterior injections here, and abscess can be drained by incising the conjunctiva. And peripheral orbital space as described earlier, bounded by peripherally by peripheral periorbita, medially by the 4 recti and intermuscular septa, anteriorly by the septum orbital, posteriorly it merges with the central space. Applied anatomy is peribulbar block. For a regular cataract surgery, we give in the peripheral orbital space, and any tumors produce eccentric proptosis. usually capillary hemangioma, lymphangioma, etc. If there is a tumor arising from peripheral orbital space, it will produce eccentric proptosis. Contents are orbital fat, superior and inferior oblique and levator palpebrae superialis muscle. Nerves are LFT, lacrimal frontal trochlear and anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerve. Superior and inferior ophthalmic vein, lacrimal gland and sac. Central space, it is posterior, bounded anteriorly by the tendons, peripherally by extraocular muscle, and posteriorly it continues with the peripheral orbital space. Contains central orbital fat, optic nerve, and superior and inferior division of third nerve, nasociliary, abducens, vessels are ophthalmic artery. So, ophthalmic artery, superior ophthalmic vein, and optic nerve. These are the main contents. These are all the ciliary nerve, recti muscle, and this is ciliary ganglion. Center one is optic nerve. Applied anatomy, retrobulbar block is given here. If there is any tumor in the central space, it will give rise to axial proptosis. Common tumors are optic nerve glioma, meningioma, and cavernous hemangioma, and neurofibroma. So we see the imaging modalities in case of orbit. Plain X-ray is the initial imaging modality in the orbital trauma. Evaluation of radio-opaque foreign bodies can be done by plain X-ray. It requires PAView or water sleeve. So this is plain X-ray. Major anatomical landmarks are frontal sinus, nasal septum, this is orbital margin, and this is maxillary sinus, nasal septum, and ethmoid air cells. Ultrasound to evaluate the globe for intrinsic pathology. Reminder of orbitis poorly seen due to marked echogenicity of post-septal fat. So most important is A scan and B scan. A scan is unidimensional. Based on the tissue density, we will get the spikes. B scan is, in the B scan, we place the probe over the center of the cornea. The resulting B scan image includes lens and it's bisected by the optic nerve. So in the B scan, this is lens and translucent one is vitreous. And this is retina and optic nerve shadow. CT scan for depicting any bony lesions and location and size of the space occupying lesions. So CT scan is important for bony lesions and space occupying lesions and orbital trauma. It can detect small fractures also and the foreign body or herniation of extraocular muscles. And in case of orbital cellulitis, it is investigation of the eyes. And so normal anatomical landmarks on the CT scan. So on the lateral wall, triangular one is zygomatic bone. 2 is nasal septum. 2 is nasal septum. 3 is lacrimal gland. So between the zygomatic bone and eyeball, their location is lacrimal gland. This is lacrimal gland. And 4 is sclera. 4 is sclera. 5 vitreous body. Within the sclera we have vitreous body. 6 is optic nerve. And 7 is medial rectus. 7 is medial rectus. 8 is lateral rectus. 9 is superior orbital fissure. This is superior orbital fissure. Here this is superior orbital fissure between the bony margins. Between this bone, we have this superior orbital fissure. 10 is optic canal. So below the superior orbital fissure, we have the optic canal. 11 is site for pituitary gland. 12 is ethmoid sinus. 13 is sphenoid sinus. So here this is superior orbital fissure and this is optic canal. This is greater wing of the sphenoid. Above is superior orbital fissure. MRI can demonstrate orbital apex lesions and intracranial extensions of the orbital tumors. It is useful for imaging of orbital inflammatory disease. STIR for inflammation activity in the thyroid eye disease. So in an MRI section, this is bone marrow, this is lens, and there are the cornea and sclera ocular cords, vitreous, center one is optic nerve, and side are extraocular muscles. This is there in the ethmoid sinus. And this whitish structure are hyperintense regions are hyperintense structures are intraorbital fat. Same, these are the extraocular muscles on the MRI. This is lateral rectus, this is medial rectus, this is inferior rectus, this is superior oblique, and superior rectus and LPS complex. Location of superior ophthalmic vein, this is levator palpebrae superialis. Ophthalmic artery. Clinical significance of anatomy of orbit is based on the orbital structures orientation. Suppose we see any proptosis with the chemosis, we have to suspect, usually if it is unilateral, we have to suspect orbital cellulitis. If it is bilateral, we have to suspect thyroid eye disease. In this case, there is gross proptosis. This is dystopia. So eyeball is shifted little downwards here, and if there is orbital space involvement is there, orbital inflammation will cause edema and inflammation of the extraocular muscles also. So ophthalmoplegia will be one of the manifesting features. Thank you.